Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the District 33 webinar series. I'm Guy Dawson. I'm the District Director of District 33 Toastmasters, and we have some excitement for all of you today. We are here with the Program Quality, or excuse me, Club Growth Director for Southern Nevada, Steve Goldstein, and he is going to be talking to us about the value of creating exciting open house events. And as many of you, I'm sure, have been a part of open house events in the past, I think that Steve has got it down to an absolute science. His reputation really precedes him in terms of really understanding how to put on a productive open house event that attracts people to your club and then eventually enables you to be able to sign them up as members. We are looking forward to this presentation this evening. I have all of you muted right now. Steve is going to be giving his presentation, probably about a half hour of actual content discussing the intricacies of open house events, and then we will open up the floor for question and answer period. Please utilize the chat box to ask your questions. I will be communicating with all of you as well during the presentation through the chat box, but I'm sure that Steve will appreciate the questions that you have about open houses, as well as experiences that you've had with open house events that have been productive. Let me tell you a little bit about my good friend, Steve Goldstein. I have the honor of introducing Steve Goldstein. Most of you either know Steve or have seen him around. He has been an area governor for 2 terms, division governor for 1 term. He has been on the District 33 Conference Committee for the past 20, yes, 20 conferences. He has been our conference chair 4 times and District Sergeant at Arms for 2 terms. We have a dedicated person with a love for Toastmasters here. He has worked closely with the past 11 district directors and is our district printer, owning a printing company in Henderson, Nevada. What you might not know about Steve is that he is the past president of the board of directors for a $2 million nonprofit organization, Hope Link in Henderson, Nevada. He is currently serving as a board vice president. There's more. Steve is the area director of BNI for Southern Nevada, Business Network International, and has been a director for the past 14 years. Let me introduce to you Distinguished Toastmaster, Club Growth Director for Southern Nevada, with his presentation, Open House Excitement, Steve Goldstein. Steve, take it away.
Thank you, Guy. Okay. Would you like to have more fun at your club meetings? Could you picture a meeting where all your members are going to be there? That all your members want to be there? That your members are engaged? I'm going to tell you how to do this and a lot more today. If you want to have an open house, you can have a party, you can have a special event, you can have an anniversary, but I'm probably going to refer to all of them today as open houses, just in general term. First, you have to make some decisions about your open house. Food or no food? Cake or desserts? I have 2 thoughts about food. One is that you have food and you have the food donated. And that's really easy. People seem to not understand how easy it really is. You can go to some of the local restaurants and ask them whether or not they would be willing to donate some food for a nonprofit for a meeting, especially at a club where you have right around you so many different restaurants. We had 5 different restaurants just give us a little something, whether it's just nachos, whether it's just pick-up food, it was fried pick-up appetizers, and they're all willing to do it if you ask them. Now, at our last TRI, you can see what we did was we put a board behind where all the food was to thank all the generous sponsors. And then, of course, we did a certificate and put Guy's name on it from District 33 and awarded certificates to all of those people who donated. If you're not going to have food, maybe you just want to have cake or something, a toast in the end, some sparkling cider. The next decision you have to make is on your agenda. And I have two thoughts about speakers. One is to have speakers from your club, and the other is to have guest speakers. Now, if you're going to have an open house to get more people to sign up to become members of your club, then I suggest that you use club members as speakers. But I really think that you should think about what they're going to say and who they're going to be. I like to have one person talk about Toastmasters and the other person talk about what Toastmasters has done for them or how they've gotten promotions because of it. I know I have a pocket speech that I've done many times called How Steve Found Toastmasters. And I do this at open houses, and it's very, very powerful speech. Now, if you're going to have an anniversary party, maybe you'd like to have a guest speaker. Yesterday, at our 30th anniversary party, Bill Parker, distinguished Toastmaster, did a speech and workshop on how to put humor in your speeches. So well received, something he does extremely well. So this is something you're going to have to decide on your agenda. Speakers, do you want to have club members speaking, or do you want to draw more people and have guest speakers come in? Then, of course, there's table topics. That's when you could really have fun at your open house or event. One thing that we like to do is bingo, where you set up a board, 8.5, 11 sheet of paper with all sorts of answers to questions. The table topic master asks questions if you've gotten this far, if you've done this kind of speech, if you've worked in this workbook, if you finished this path, if you've ever been to a district conference, all sorts of different questions. Have you competed before? And then the first person that gets the whole row wins the bingo. What we like to do is to get donated a $25 gift card or a $15 gift card. When you're going out to the local businesses, Starbucks, restaurants, they're all willing to give a small donation if you ask. Many times that could be a gift card. The other thing we like to do is when the table topics master comes up, we hand out to everybody in the room a pen and a card, and we ask them to write on the card something no one knows about you. And the table topics master has the name of that person and will read what they have written. And the audience has to guess who it is in the room. And once you figure out who it is, they get up, as in table topics, and get to speak from 1 to 2 minutes on that particular topic. Susan, you're a motorcyclist. You go motorcycling. You have a big Harley Davidson. I never knew that about you. Someone lived in Germany. I didn't know you lived in Germany for 3 years. Wow. To really get to know people, your guests and your members as well. So these are the kind of things that you can do to really beef up your meetings and make it a lot more fun. Before I talk to you about the visitor experience, I want to talk to you about shows. Have you been to a show before? Broadway show? Las Vegas? A Las Vegas show? Imagine, just imagine you're sitting there. The lights dim. The curtain opens. And there on the stage in front of you, they're putting the last of the makeup on one of the actresses. And they're fixing the costume of one of the actors. And the stagehand sees you. He's on his cell phone and runs off, stage right. What kind of show do you think you're going to see? Well, we all know that when those lights dim and the curtain opens, everything starts just like that. Well, I'm here today to tell you that's exactly what happens in our Toastmasters meetings. Because the minute that screen opens, everything starts. In our Toastmasters meetings, it's when the first visitor gets there, everything starts. Now let's face it, you go to your Toastmasters meeting every week or bi-weekly. You know what time of the day that is. You know exactly how long it takes you to get to your club meeting. The visitor has probably not done that before. And they are going to get there when? Early. That's right, early. So they're going to be there 10, 15 minutes early. If you want that curtain to open and everything to happen as soon as the first visitor walks in the door, you've got to be there half an hour, minimum, ahead of time. Set up, get ready for your visitors so that when that first visitor gets there, everything is good. Now that you have a good visualization of the visitor experience, I need to talk to you about the visitors. Everyone gets there and there's one sign-in book and there's one sheet of paper on the table for everybody to sign in. And there seems to always be this line of people to sign in, or they bypass it and don't sign in at all. Well, what I like to do is I print the sign-up sheets 4 up on an 8.5, 11 sheet of paper, and then cut them out into individual little slips that are 4.25 by 5.5. I have a whole bunch of pens and a whole bunch of Sharpies, and as the visitors come in to register, everyone in our club is a visitor host. So we'll come over and we'll take the visitor and we'll take a pen and a Sharpie and a name badge and bring them over outside that area and sign them in. And they're responsible to make sure that we can read what is on the sign-in. I can't tell you how many times we've had a sign-in sheet and we've emailed these visitors and we can't read their email addresses. They keep bouncing back. And we try to decipher them and we just lost everything that we've done. So I think that what we need to do is to understand that we want a visitor experience to be something that they're going to enjoy. And did I mention name badges? Here are some pictures with people who are meeting and they don't have name badges. And that makes it very awkward because you know everybody in your club and the visitors do not. And you meet the visitor and they're going to have a name badge, so you know what their name is, but they're not going to feel comfortable because they are going to come back and not remember your name. So they're not going to want to have a conversation. That's not a fun environment. All members that do not have a Toastmasters name badge should get a paper name badge with their name on it, just to make it a fun environment and everyone would partake. Now, I also think that as hosts, we all need to keep our eye on our visitors. They come in, they sign in, we're talking, but is there someone standing alone? Is there someone not mingling? Did they take a seat? Well, we need to engage them. Go over, have a conversation, sit next to them. Have you ever been to a Toastmasters meeting before? Oh yeah, today's a special meeting. You'll tell them a little about it. Oh yes, I've been a member for so long. And you start the conversation. Make it a really fun environment for those visitors. Now, how do we get our members involved? Well, the first thing I like to do is to have All the members have a responsibility. Don't have one person or three people entirely do your entire open house or event. Ask one member to bring 12 pens. Ask another member to bring 5 Sharpies. Ask another member to bring a case of water. Ask another member to make the sign-in sheets. Have another member bring the balloons. Have another member, so on and so forth. The more members you get involved, the more members that have a responsibility, they feel part of that event. I always like to have what I call a huddle. We have all of our club members come 45 minutes before the event. They bring what they were supposed to bring. And we have a huddle. And we go over a few facts. Okay, remember, we're all visitor hosts. Remember to sign in, everyone. Remember to take this and put this here. Okay, now, this is what we're going to do today. And this is the agenda. And this is... and go over everything, make sure everyone's there, makes setup a lot easier than the members that are going to get there 5 minutes before the event itself, because they know how long it takes to get there, and the visitors are already there. They've missed their opportunity to mix and mingle. Everyone knows that the most important thing about visitors is making them feel comfortable and making sure that they are in an environment where they see a meeting that they can see themselves partaking in. Now I'm going to go back to your agenda. And your president should have a script for that day. Your Toastmaster should have a script for that day. There are many times when your president and your Toastmasters come to a meeting and they have a general idea what they're going to say, but this is not a general meeting. It's a special event. It's an open house, an anniversary. It's whatever it is. It should all be planned out ahead of time. The Toastmaster and the president need to know they're not going to say the exact same thing. So you have to orchestrate it on your schedule for that day. Maybe your club has a humorist. Do you want to have a humorist that day or not? Do you want to do the educational moment or not? Although I personally feel that the educational moment is great. It's a great opportunity to educate Toastmasters and visitors about Toastmasters at your event. The most important thing I can tell you about visitors is that I believe that follow-up is the most important part of a Toastmasters meeting. I'm gonna put it to you another way. The most important thing is follow-up, follow-up, follow-up. If you do an open house and you don't follow up with your visitors to sign up, to become members, if you don't ask them to become members, then you're not really doing your job. I think that all the visitors should be touched 2 times, at least. And those 2 times are, one, by the person that invited them, and second, by either the VP of membership, or it could be one of the visitor hosts or someone they bonded with at the meeting. And when you go through all of the visitors, then you can choose exactly which members are going to call which visitors. It's not that one person does all the calling. That's what you do when you have a post-meeting and you go over all the visitors and you assign people to follow up. In the end, what do you want your visitors to see? What do you want your visitors to hear? What do you want them to feel? Or visually, what did they see? Did they see an organized meeting that they could see themselves in and have a lot of fun? Did they feel that it was a safe environment that they could learn and grow? And do they feel that they could join and be given a mentor and have that guide, not be all left alone to figure out how to do things. If you plan and you have a well followed up event, you will be successful. I can tell you that a regular meeting, you can invite a few people and maybe some will join. But when you want to attract new members, if you plan your meeting and engage your members, then you're going to have much more fun at your meetings. You're going to show the visitors that this is an organized, fun club. You will attract a lot more new members by doing this. And by doing this, you're going to engage your club members to the point where they will be proud to be members of your club. Open houses are great. You can advertise in so many ways. You can get people to donate food. You can just make it something that everyone is going to have a great experience, and it's not that difficult. I think it's great for clubs to do this because it gets everybody working together, and it's a real special, fun meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Steve. And there were a lot of things that you talked about during this presentation that I want to touch on personally, but I know that there are also a lot of you out there who've had experiences with open house events. And as I had mentioned before, if you have some experiences that you'd like to share about events that you put on, or you have questions specifically for Steve about things related to open house events, please utilize the chat box for that. In the meantime, I'm going to be asking Steve some questions and sharing some experience as well that I've had with open house events. My first question for you, Steve, is how often do you think a club should plan an open house?
I think at least quarterly. I think that every other month might be a little too much, but quarterly is not bad, or every other month. Again, some clubs need more members, so they might want to have it a little more often than the club that already has 25, 30 members.
Right, so basically every 3 months pretty much would work for most of the clubs. Is that just having that consistency of having some type of event where, again, you get a chance to work together as a club. I think that that's a big aspect of it, and I know you mentioned in your presentation, working together as a club towards a common goal that will be very helpful in bringing more members into the club.
I also think that when you have this event and you bond all the members together, making them more engaged, it also increases the feeling about being in that club. And people get that experience, just like the leadership track. They start to understand how the event should be, and they volunteer to do more and more for the next event and the next event. And then eventually they actually become the chair and run one event. So there's a progression in learning as well.
Yeah, and that's a good point that you made about chair people. And I know that in the Competent Leadership Manual, you actually get credit for being a chairperson for a club event. What is the value that a member gets from being a part of one of those committees?
I think you have to learn to communicate differently than you do when you're communicating about a speech. It's not like being an officer. It's like saying, okay, I'm in charge of this event, and I need to know what the protocol is. Are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? And then we come back and say, okay, this is your event. What do you want? And then you start to learn how to communicate with the leadership team of your club and the chairperson to actually mold the event. They don't all have to be the same. They shouldn't all be the same. We had one where we actually just sat around in a circle and did educationals. Just Toastmaster educationals is all we did. There was no real speech. It was just a different kind of recruiting, and we had 12 guests and we recruited 5 members that day.
Wow. Very impressive, and that's a key point, Steve, is that your open house event can look any way that you want it to look. The idea is that sometimes it doesn't look the same way that a traditional meeting uh, looks, and there is a certain allure to that. Maybe it's not the same as a traditional meeting that you're putting on. It's exciting, but it gets them, they get a taste of what Toastmasters is all about, and at the same time, they're in this environment of excitement, and it's something that is really deliberately being designed for them so that they understand Toastmasters better and might want to join.
Very true.
And so when you work with people on these open houses, I know you've been sharing a lot with people lately about the techniques for getting businesses to sponsor your open house event. What is the technique that you use when you go out and you just decide that you want to get someone to supply the food or balloons, or is it you go knock on doors? How do you go about that?
Exactly. I take an hour of my time in increments, and I'll go start with the restaurants that are closest to our meeting location. And there was a TGI Fridays, and we went in and said, we're having an event, we're a nonprofit, we meet 2 Saturdays a month. Matter of fact, we come in here afterwards quite a bit, and we're wondering if you could donate a few appetizers for our meeting. He says, well, we're going to have this many people. Have a flyer with you. It's so important to have a written flyer of the event that you can leave with them so that they know it's a legitimate event, they know the date, and you have your contact information on there, or you can write it on the back. And again, just reiterate that you don't want them to furnish all the food for the whole event. We're going to have 35, 45 people. We're just looking at maybe 2 or 3 appetizers, if you would so consider. And then when they realize it's not a lot, they go, oh, sure. I mean, they give away appetizers all the time. So what's 2 or 3 appetizers? And then you walk down and there's a Mexican restaurant. And we walk in, I go to the manager and I say this, and he goes, well, I don't know. I said, well, I'll tell you what, could you like do 4 burritos and just cut them in half for us, or nachos? He said, nachos. I'll do a big platter of nachos for you guys. Thank you very much. And just go from restaurant to restaurant. Coffee, you go into Starbucks, they all have budgets that they're willing to dip into to donate. And when you say you're a nonprofit and you have that flyer, and then you're willing to say to them, we've done this in the past, we're going to promote you. You need to send us your logo. We're going to promote you at the event. And afterwards, you know, we'll show our appreciation to you, and we'll have a certificate from our district.
You know, that's a great point, Steve. And I think that for some of the people who may be on this call tonight, they may say, I'm not that type of a person that has that sales mentality. And what I'd like to say is that there's someone in your club who does. And again, these events are all about it being a collaborative effort. You utilize people's talents in whatever ways they're strongest. If you have that type of personality, and I'm sure that every club has that type of personality, a person who is not afraid to go in and ask for things, I would enlist them to be a part of the committee in some way, to go out there and help you bring in some donations.
I have another point, Guy, that you reminded me of, and that is that all of our clubs usually have 1 or 2 dominant Toastmasters. They're the mother or father of that particular club, and people turn to them all the time to say, what should we do? Or they're very verbal about how the club should be run or what the club should do. In my mind, you have to realize that you can't force this on your members. If you want to have these individual sheets to sign in, and then someone says, oh no, we're going to have this sheet, you just have to back off a little and let it be what it's going to be. Someone says, oh, we definitely need to have food. And everyone says, no, we're not going to have food at this. We're just going to have a cake. Let it be. You really just want to not over-dominate the people who haven't done it before and let them have the experience of running an event. As long as it's going to function well, it doesn't have to be the way the mother of that club says. There's always variation.
Great point. Yep, that's, again, it's a leadership opportunity that's a little bit different than what you do during a traditional meeting. It is a great opportunity to give newer members or newer officers a chance to be a part of the development of something that is going to help both them and the club, because the more members that you bring in, your clubs run considerably better, as we've found through the years, Steve.
Yes. And the new member experience from that open house to the next regular meeting, and find out, what did you think of our regular meeting now that you've joined, and start the mentoring process right then and there. That's the first meeting. And that's so powerful to have a strong mentoring program so that they have someone they can ask those silly questions. We all know there's no silly questions, but the mentor explains all these things and says, oh, I'll help you with that. I'll explain what table topics is. I'll help you with your first few speeches. And then they'll feel even more part of the club.
And an important part, of course, is the marketing of the event itself. I think the simplest way to market an event is to actually invite people to attend the open house event. And you talked a lot about follow-up in different forms during your presentation. I mean, how valuable is that to follow up with the people before they even come to the event? Which means you mentioned the fact that you've got an event, you asked them to come, but isn't it important, Steve, that you follow up with them to even get them to the event in the first place?
Yes, and I'm so involved in so many different flyers, being a printer and doing so many flyers for the district, that I didn't really touch upon that. It's just second nature to me. But you're right. It's important to publicize it. One, have a flyer, have that PDF, send it to all the members so that they can print it off and distribute it, forward that email to other people. I like to always ask before the meeting, how many people are you attending? Ask all the members, please try to invite at least 1 to 3 people. And do you know the old saying, if you invite 4 people, 2 will say no, 2 will say yes, and 1 will show up. It's just a fact of life. So if you invite 4 people, you'll have 1 visitor. That's from the inviting standpoint. And if you follow up the week beforehand, the VP of membership or the chairperson should have a rough idea how many visitors you're predicting. And just remember, 50% of those show up.
And Steve, we have some great campaigns within the district right now that really create opportunities for clubs to earn recognition as well as Toastmaster bucks for putting on great open house events. Do you want to talk about one that's been very successful so far already this year?
Yes, we did an open house incentive in November and December, and it was so successful we renewed it for January and February. Any club that submits to the club growth director their flyer, as long as their flyer is branded correctly, and 2 photos of their event, so you take a couple of pictures, click, 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 and just attach them, flyer, 2 photos, they'll receive $25 as an incentive for having that successful open house. And we tacked on any new member that joins from that open house. We'll give you 5 TI dollars for those new members.
Right, so there's plenty of incentives, and basically we're giving you incentives for doing something that is going to bring, absolutely we know that it will bring tremendous value to your club. I would say, Steve, that open house events are probably the oldest form of public relations that we have in Toastmasters. I'm sure that they had been doing open house events in this organization since the very beginning in one form or another.
Guy, the Toastmaster magazine just came out. I just got it in the mail on Saturday. And there was something really interesting about one club that had a table topics in an open area in Marketplace in front of all the crowds coming around. They did Toastmasters right there with the public walking by, and they gave out flyers for their next meeting. I said, wow, that's really a great idea.
Right, so these are these unique open house experiences, as Steve mentioned during his presentation. Doesn't have to look traditional. We have a thought about how many of us, maybe, about how an open house event could look. Yeah, you go out into go to a mall one of these days and get a bunch of your members together and put on a mock Toastmaster meeting. I mean, wouldn't that be a great way to introduce people to Toastmasters?
Absolutely.
And I've been a part of some very successful open house events in the years I've been in Toastmasters, Steve, where we've added 5 members, 6 members. We had an open house event one time where I think we added 11 members. And I've heard of an event that was put on by Summerlin Sounders last year. They're affiliated with Bank of America. Their membership was low, and they put a lot into hosting one of these open house events. And I believe, and don't quote me exactly on the numbers that they got from this, but I know Barbara Westhoff was the Division H director at that time. And I believe that they added something like 13 members as the result of one open house event. That's practically like a whole club, because they focused on putting together a great open house event. They got everyone excited. They were able to show the value of Toastmasters, and they got all those people to sign applications that very night.
And think of the enthusiasm of all the members of the club, how they felt being so successful on having an open house, and how proud they were of the job they did. So now the club is engaged. Those members are all engaged.
Right, and so all of you, we know that there's a huge social aspect to being members of Toastmasters. Of course, it's all very much the value of being in the organization is the educational value we get, the goal setting, but the fellowship in Toastmasters for me, Steve, has been one of the things that has kept me here throughout all these years, the friendships that I've made, and just to introduce your club to the community in that way. You just never know who you're going to meet as a result of an event like that. We had one at Business Masters out here in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago. We had a huge crowd. We had guest speakers. Past District Governor Kay Collis was a speaker. We had 2 other guest speakers who spoke specifically about business at this event. Packed house, and just the networking that went on there. You know, because we put a lot into the marketing. There was a big group of people there. I met a guy who I am going to be doing some business with as a direct result of attending that event. And so that social aspect, that fellowship that you create, and I'm speaking from the business perspective, but there are all different types of social interactions that can really help you in your life, that can come directly from your club hosting an open house event and inviting the community in.
It's always been a win-win situation. And if done right, it becomes a triple win situation. Win, win, win. The club wins, the visitors win, the new members win, and the district and the division win. It's a winning situation all the way around.
Currently, we know that there are a lot of open house events that are going on throughout the district, and I appreciate you, Steve, and Flora for really pushing and encouraging the clubs to engage in these events. And the reason why we put this webinar on was to just to continue to give the emphasis on the value of open houses, and that again, our club growth directors have incentives. They want to see you succeed. The district wants to see you succeed. These events are absolutely, positively things that will grow your clubs. We know that for a fact. Clubs that put on good open house events get new members. So we've got a lot of other tools to help you run successful meetings that will allow you to retain these members. But I think that on the most basic level, if there's one thing that you can do to increase membership, it is plan an open event and utilize some of these techniques that Steve has offered to everyone tonight. And Steve, if they want more details about open houses or experiences, can you share your information one more time with them?
Technology. I've been able to figure out exactly which buttons to push to put that back on the screen. Isn't that great?
Yes, yes. You're growing. You're turning into a regular, almost a techie, huh, Steve?
And the neighbors across the street, those kids are going to love those balloons I got behind me.
All right. So all of you out there, Steve's information is on the screen. And again, I have a chat box. I've asked if there's anyone out there who has any questions about how to put on open house events. We've got about a minute here. If you've got something that you want to type in, or if you have experiences about open house events that you've had in the past that you want to share with the group, this is what it's all about. It's really about the interaction. Steve has a presentation, but it's the Q&A, it's the interaction that we really look forward to receiving from all of you about these events. And we want to help you be more successful. We know that a lot of you are hosting events right now, and we sincerely hope that the information that he has provided for you this evening will help you to be even more effective in events that you're putting on. Oh, okay. So let's see. Linda Wordinger said, I came in late, so I don't want to repeat any information, but when will this webinar be available? So Linda, this webinar will be available on the District 33 website sometime during the coming week. And for all of you, all of these webinars that we are doing are available on the new district website, and you can go to d33tm.org for that brand new website. If you haven't been there, I would highly encourage you to go to the site. We have a lot of resources there. It's very user-friendly. We're very proud as a district to have such a professional looking and highly functioning website. We have webinars for many topics. All the topics that we've covered so far are there, as well as the ones that will be coming over the next couple of weeks and throughout the month. We're basically going to be hosting these webinars all the way until the end of this Toastmaster year. We're developing a library of these events to be able to give you all resources that will help you to improve your Toastmaster experience. Next week's webinar, that'll be held on the 18th. That's a Sunday at 5:00 p.m. and that will be with the Club Growth Director for District 33 in California, Flora Turner. And she will be talking about the value of adding new clubs to our district, why it is that we are constantly focused on bringing the experience of Toastmasters to new people by adding clubs. Okay, I'll answer that question in just a second. I'll put it in the chat box, actually. But she's going to be hosting this webinar. We'd love to have you come back and be a part of that. She's going to talk about, again, why we know that it's valuable to continuously add Toastmasters clubs to the district. She's going to share with you ways that you as an individual member can contribute to us getting new Toastmaster clubs. Everyone is a resource for potential leads of Toastmaster clubs. It could be your job, your church, an organization that you're a part of, a community group. You're going to want to be a part of this webinar next week. I would encourage all of you to join us again next Sunday at 5 o'clock for Flora Turner's webinar about the value of adding Toastmaster clubs, bringing more people into Toastmasters through building new clubs. On February the 25th, the district finance manager, Bill Bateman, is going to do a webinar about club treasurer and what a valuable role they play. How to manage the money, how to distribute the money, how to collect the money, all things related to money will be discussed during Phil Bateman's webinar. Again, that will be held on the 25th of February. Just again, another resource. If you are a club treasurer, or if your club treasurer is very good, by the way, we'd like you to invite them to participate, because they will have things that they can share with all of us that will help. Even people who are experienced treasurers or officers are getting a tremendous amount of value from the insights that are shared during these webinars. Invite people, please do. Share these events with the members of your club so that we can get as much insight as we can from all these great leaders that we have within the district. So we do have a question, Steve. What is the best way to involve club members in organizing open houses? Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of members that are willing to get involved. How do we encourage them to get involved?
You only need 1 or 2 people to start the whole process. Your VP of Education and the person who's going to be the chair for that open house. And if you don't have a lot of people, it could either be one person, the VP or the chair. And what they do is they ask other members to do certain things. As I said in the presentation, have one bring sign-in sheets, have another person bring the pens, have another person go out and get welcome, stick-on name badges. So giving everyone a little something to do makes them feel part of the event. And obviously, the less you have, the more you can group them up. And, you know, at a normal open house, 1 or 2 people do everything. What I'm saying is split it up. Utilize your club members and get them involved in the event. I have always really felt in my heart that engaged members just make a better chapter. Everyone's happy to be there. They feel that they're participating. They've never been asked to do anything, so they don't. So ask, see what happens.
So let's see. Wow, it's great to hear that everyone is engaging in this. This is from Linda. Steve, I've heard this same advice from one of our club DTMs. Give every member something to do.
Yes.
Carolyn, the VPE and myself, VPPR, are organizing the event. So you are suggesting just asking them to do certain tasks?
Asking the other members outside of them to do some of the tasks for the event. So that you do the planning, you're going to figure out what day it is, whether you're going to have speakers that are from outside or inside, you're going to invite those speakers, you're going to set up your event. But then for that event, okay, so see if there's someone who is good at sales, will get an hour of their time to go get some food donated. If not, let's say you decide to have a cake at that event. You ask someone, would you be willing to go to Sam's Club or Walmart and get a cake for the event? Great. You know, we'll reimburse you. Should be $18, $20 is what our budget is. So get them involved that way. Ask them to do certain tasks.
Laquita, Steve, my clubs have many open houses with excellent participation and speakers. However, we can't seem to turn those open house guests into members. What do you suggest we do to gain members from open houses?
First thing, follow up, follow up, follow up. If you don't follow up, you've lost them. I think also at the end of the meeting, instead of everyone running out, that's when you can open the dialogue. That's when you need to ask the question, how many, 80% of the salespeople in the world Never ask for the order for fear of failure and rejection. Same thing. You have a visitor right there. Ask them to join. Did you enjoy the meeting? Do you see the benefits that this could do for you? We would love to have you as a member. Would you like to join our chapter? Oh, you need to think about it till next week. Okay, is there any information that we can give you? Let me just check our sign-in sheet to make sure I've got your information. Great. We'll follow up with you because we really think you'd be a good match for our club. It's not that difficult. Closing is a sales closing, but we have to remember that people like to be asked, and we need to close and follow up on visitors. Very, very important. Follow up, follow up, follow up.
Yeah, that's critical, Steve. And also that we have a campaign that we're actually running through the district right now to help you improve your guest packets. And I think that if you've got a guest packet, definitely, Steve, wouldn't you agree that they need to have a good guest packet, something to put in their hands that gives a good explanation of what the club's all about and what Toastmasters is all about?
I totally agree. I think I've experienced firsthand new members coming back and joining our club, and when I'm taking their application, going through everything with them, they said, oh yeah, I've gone to 3 or 4 clubs. I decided to join this one. So my question, of course, is what can I ask you, what made you decide to join our club? Well, first of all, this guest packet, all the information, how friendly you were. You run things, you know, all the shaking of the hands and this and that. It was all formal, but it was such a relaxed environment. So I really think that conversation and the guest packet are all tied together on the visitor experience. The visitor experience. What do you want them to see? What do you want them to hear? What do you want them to feel? And can they see themselves as members? And, you know, if we do that, we'll turn them around.
I agree, Steve, and it's really about looking at it from the visitor's point of view. And that's, I think, is so important. If you were visiting your club for an open house event, what would you think of the presentation that you made? You have to really step outside of yourself and think of what that person that's never been to a Toastmaster meeting before. I'll give an example, and it wasn't an open house event yesterday, Steve, but it was the anniversary that you were talking about for Saturday morning 5. I went there, and there was a woman who had never been to a Toastmaster meeting before. But to see the way that they managed her, the way that they handled her, that I constantly saw members walking up to her, introducing themselves. You want to make them feel that high level of comfort, right, Steve, that you matter to us. Not only do we put on a great professional meeting, but you matter to us. The more you make people feel that they matter, and those are your existing members as well as these visitors that come, but even more so the visitors, the ones that are already in the club have already found a certain amount of value in Toastmasters. But the ones who come for a visit, you have to really wrap your arms around them, don't you, Steve? And
Yes.
let them know that they are valuable to you.
And you have to invite them back. I mean, they come to a meeting, and if they sign up, that's wonderful. That's the beginning of the process. But if they don't, you've got to invite them back. They need to know when your meeting is, when the next meeting is, and invite them back and follow up. So if they did have that good feeling, now, let's just say that one of those people that joined, when I said that they had been to several clubs and they decided to join mine, one of the things they said was, you were the only club that called me. You're the only club that really, I felt, wanted me as a member. The other clubs never contacted me after I visited them.
Well, that's very telling. But we know that it's happening all over the district, so following up with them. And then another key is that you have to run the next meeting as well as you ran the open house. And I know we'll really put on the dog sometimes, as you might say, for the open house meeting. And then maybe we're a lot more lax the second meeting and they come back and they'll say to themselves, whoa, what I saw one week and what I'm seeing this week when there's not a party are two completely different things. It's very important that we are consistent in the way that we run our meetings, isn't it, Steve?
Yes. I think it's important to let them know that this is a special meeting. Please come back and see one of our regular meetings, and you'll, you can explain to them what the difference is, why we had this event. People like to know the why behind things.
Wayne said, we are using all of your wonderful ideas for Speak and Eat Toastmasters Open House and 32nd Anniversary Celebration this Friday, February 16th. The mayor of Simi Valley is a featured speaker in addition to involvement of members. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Great way to go about it. Bring a dignitary in there. You'll draw people from the community who just want to come to meet the mayor. Maybe they've never met the mayor before. And I'm sure many of you know famous people or leaders in the community that you could invite to be a part of these open house events that would be a draw for people. Because the marketing, then you've got the mayor of Simi Valley on your flyer or the mayor of your town on your flyer. You'd be amazed if you reach out to the city government and invite them to an open house event, how many dignitaries would be totally willing to come and be a part. It's a part of their job, is doing community service. Take advantage of celebrity appeal. Caroline says, when you have a guest speaker for an open house, what do they speak on?
Well, there are different types of guests. Guy talked about one that was business, so you had a business person speaking, giving a speech about, who is your audience? Who's your audience? So we had a 30th anniversary, and one of our speakers spoke about how to put humor in your speech, something that was like a workshop and speech rolled into one, so members got value out of it. And the visitors were sitting there saying, yeah, that's a skill set I don't have. But then at the end, they said, well, it's not that difficult if you break it down the way Bill said. The other speaker said, I just competed 2 years ago in the international speech contest. And I want to let you know it changes your life. And she had a really inspiring speech on what it was like to compete and to win at a district level and then go to the international and to the semifinals. So those are great topics. Just depends on who your audience is. I think that when I've been asked to speak at a brand new club or a kickoff, I've got that speech about how Steve found Toastmasters. And my experience in being asked to go speak at a college university, and I said, wow, there were a lot of people there. I wonder what training I could get. And then when I said, gee, there are seminars you can take for $1,000, and then I found Toastmasters, a nonprofit where I could join and actually get personal feedback. And it's really inspiring. It's really a great speech. So you've got to determine who your audience is, and then determine if you want people in your club to speak or you're going to have outside speakers. And then give them an idea what you would like to have at that event.
Wayne said that the mayor will speak about communications, leadership, and public service in alignment with members' talks on Toastmasters and the club. And I've been in clubs where we've had outside speakers. Generally, we've asked them to speak on a topic about maybe how communication has affected their careers, how they use communications, if it's a politician, in dealing with their constituents. Basically, you want to frame it with that speaker in advance that they will be talking about something that shows that communication is important in the development of people's careers. I think that that's something that you would want to tell all of those speakers. And so that might not specifically promote Toastmasters, but again, I think having the outside speaker in, especially if it's a dignitary, a politician, some type of a celebrity, is a great marketing tool for the meeting. What you're going to do is You will get people to come to the meeting who might not come otherwise. And then when they come and they see what a Toastmaster meeting is all about, it could really stimulate them to want to join Toastmasters. They may not understand what they're coming for, but once they come, they might see what a great environment is. Look at the structure that they have here for people who are members. Now I want to join. I want to be a part of something like this. Marketing is about getting people through the door. And then once we get them through the door and we can explain what Toastmasters is all about to them, as all of us know, then you're hooked and you want to join. And 6 months later, they might be members of 3 or 4 clubs, like many of us are. But it's about getting them through the door. Do we have any other questions for Steve about utilizing open house events to grow membership? Again, for all of you, a big emphasis of the district this year and every year is having large clubs, getting our clubs to 20 members, because that is the threshold of Toastmasters where we found that clubs operate at the most effective level. Hosting these open house events on a regular basis is done so to grow your club so that you have more diversity, more ideas to share with amongst your members. It creates an environment that is so much more effective in putting on good meetings. It's more attractive when you have people who visit your Toastmasters club to have larger clubs. We want you to have 20-member clubs, and we feel that open house events are probably the #1 vehicle. And I love Meetup. I love Toastmasters.org for inviting members, but I still believe that the #1 vehicle that any club can use to grow is open house events. Do you agree with me, Steve? What could be better than an open house?
Wholeheartedly, really. It's a win-win situation, and I think that I said earlier you should do it at least quarterly, but I'm going to say that for the smaller clubs that are trying to get to 20 and above, they should probably have it every other month. I'm going to revise what I said because I agree with you wholeheartedly. It is the #1 way to engage members, to grow, to add new members, and to have fun. I mean, these are fun events. We have fun at these events.
Right, so if you're having some challenges with your club, a good way to change the attitude. Sometimes it's just a matter of a shift in attitude and everybody pulling together to put on one of these events. You'll be amazed at how you start to create a sense of camaraderie. And I know we've touched on that several times. Never underestimate the value of creating a sense of oneness and camaraderie within your club. And throwing a party has a great way of doing that. Okay, so we've got Caroline is just saying thank you for the ideas that we've shared. If we don't have any other questions, we know it is a little bit after 6 o'clock, and we promise that we will stay on time as best we can during all presentations of Toastmasters. We hope that you got some great information that you will, again, take back to the members of your clubs. Set a goal. If you haven't had an open house event in a long time, set a goal that, hey, within the next month, we are going to put a committee together and put on a good open house event. Have balloons, go out in your community and invite people to be a part of it. Invite dignitaries, just the excitement, Steve. That's the word. People join things that are exciting. They don't join things that are boring. Make your club more exciting with one of these Toastmaster events.
Great.
And we would love to see you all back for next week's webinar. Again, that will be Flora Turner, and she will be talking about the value of bringing more people into Toastmasters through starting new clubs. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. We really appreciate your commitment to your own growth by being a part of the District 33 webinar series. Take care, everyone. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Guy.